What's up YouTube, Webbers5 here, coming at you today with my Cyberdark deck profile. So guys, this is the follow-up of my recent tournament in which I tried out the Cyberdark deck with the new support from the structure deck, having absolutely no experience playing it since I'd literally built it within a few days, but I decided to just give it a go in the tournament anyway. So this is the profile of what I played for it. Before we get into the profile guys, I want to do my shoutouts as always. So today I would like to shout out to Benjamin Callahan, Angel Romo, Gustavo Cardoso, and Aiden Dover for new subscribers. Thank you so much guys, you're the reason my channel is growing stronger. And without further ado guys, let's get into the deck profile. Okay guys, so starting the deck off, I'll start off with the starter cards of the deck. So the deck has like 15 starters, which is absolutely insane. Opening any combination of these pretty much secures you the game. And your starters are 3 Cyber Dragon Core, 3 Cyber Emergency, 3 Cyber Dragon Claw, Cyberdark Claw, sorry, 3 Cyberdark Realm, and 3 Cybernetic Horizon. So the ones that most people already know what they do are the ones that have been out for a while. So Cyber Emergency rotates for a light machine that can't be normal summoned or set, or a Cyber Dragon monster, which your choice is going to be the Cyber Dragon Core, which searches any cyber spell or trap upon being normal or special summoned. So it can search Cyberdark, so it can search the Cyberdark Realm or the Cybernetic Horizon, which are the ones you really want to start off with first. And then Cyberdark Claw, it discards itself to its rota for a Cyberdark spell trap, so it can do Cyberdark Realm. It can also do the new Cybernetic Horizon, which is always treated as a Cyberdark card. And so guys, just a quick explanation in case nobody's seen what the new stuff does. So Cyberdark Realm, when it's activated, lets you search for a Cyberdark monster whose name is different from the monsters in your graveyard. So early game it can pretty much get you anything you want. You typically want to go for either Cannon or Claw, probably more likely Claw to start getting into your back row, like the Horizon. And then the other effect of Realm is, once per turn you can immediately normal summon a Cyberdark monster, so that's pretty useful back for the original support. And Realm also has another effect which only comes up in certain situations. It has the effect that if you would equip a monster in your graveyard off the effect of Cyberdark monster being summoned, you could equip one monster from your opponent's graveyard instead, which is pretty good. And then guys, the new Cybernetic Horizon card, so upon activation that sends 2 dragon and or machine cyber monsters with different attributes from your hand and your deck. From hand and deck to grave, one from both, and then you get to add a cyber machine or dragon monster from your deck to your hand, and then if you do, you can send a cyber machine monster from your deck to the graveyard. So basically, guys, the purpose of this is to search the piece that you need. Typically, the monster you want to be sending off the dark cyber you want to send is the Chimera, because Chimera can then send something else when it does. And then your machine, you probably want to be sending either Cyber End Dragon or Cyber Dark Dragon. I typically choose the Cyber End Dragon because if I can make Cyber Darkness, then I can still go into Cyber Dark End. Okay, continuing on with the monsters and the Cyber Dark monsters, playing 3 Cyber Dark Cannon, 2 Cyberdark Chimera, and then 1 of each of the original Cyberdarks, so that's 1 Horn, 1 Edge, and 1 Keel. So Cannon's the discard to rota for a Cyberdark Machine monster, which is any of the originals, and it now includes the new Chimera. So Chimera is absolutely amazing in the deck, so Chimera on the field can discard a spell trap to rota for a power bond, and then during that turn you can banish monsters from your graveyard instead of your field, as well as your field and hand if you activate power bond, which is really useful. So basically all that milling that you did earlier, you can now just go power bond, banish the materials, drop Cyberdark End Dragon, double its attack points, and just smack for huge damage. And then Chimera has the additional effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can send a Cyberdark monster with a different name than the monsters in your graveyard to it. So yeah, slightly similar to how Cyberdark Realm works. Or is it Cyberdark World? I've forgotten the name already. guys. Sorry. I'm just so used to the OCG names, guys. Okay, it's Cyberdark Realm. So yeah. So, Chimera, really good in the early game. Later game, not really so much, because once you start going through names, there's not as much you can do later. And then next up with the monsters, the remainder of my Cyberdragon engine, which I'm playing one Nashta and one Cyberdragon. So playing one copy of Nashta, because that's essentially how you do Chimera, because Nashta's effect is so Nashta can just send a monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon itself. And then when it's normal special summon, you can target a machine with 2100 attack or defense in your grave and special summon it. And the new Chimera has 2100 defense, so so Chimera's got 2100 defense, so you can summon it off Nashta's effect. So that's really useful. And I'm just playing one of the original Cyberdragon, because frankly with things like Core and Nashta, whose names are treated as Cyberdragon on the field, you don't need too many of them. But I like to have one just for purposes of things like Cyberload Fusion, for when I want to if I want to fusion summon. If my materials are banished, naturally these guys like Nashta and Core, their names are treated as Cyberdragon on the field and in the grave, but it's not treated as Cyberdragon if it's banished, so that's why I have one of the original, so that if I've banished my stuff off the Overload Fusion and then I want to setting up for a Cyberload Fusion, I do have an original that I can use to make my materials. And then last monsters in the deck, playing two attachment Cyburn. So this is one of the newer level 3 dragons. So attachment Cyburn, when it's equipped to a monster by any means, that the equipped monster gains 600 attack, which is really cool, because if you equip it with one of the original Cyberdarks, so their effects will give it its original attack points, which is 1600, bringing them to 24, and then the equip effect of Cyburn gives it an extra 600, so that basically gives you a 3k monster that you've just normal summoned, which is really good. And then Cyburn's equip effect, sorry guys, getting my words wrong here. So all the Cyberdark equips have the new Cyberdark equips have the effect that if they're sent to the graveyard while equipped to something, they get an additional effect. Cannon lets you draw one card. Claw lets you add back a Cyberdark monster, except for itself. Lets you add back a Cyberdark monster. And Attachment Cyburn lets you special summon a Dragonor Machine Cyber monster in your graveyard. One other one, so it can't do itself, and it is once per turn. Which frankly is a good thing, because if Attachment Cyburn wasn't once per turn on that graveyard effect, you can just basically keep looping it. And then guys, the last monster I'm playing in the deck, which is just a one-off tech. One copy of Gizmek Orochi. This is just primarily for the purpose that if I've got a monster equipped with Cyberdark Cannon, I can go to the battle phase, deal a bit of damage. In the damage calc, I can send a monster from my deck to the graveyard. So if I send the Orochi and I'm still in my battle phase, I can just banish 8. I can banish 8 cards, summon the Orochi, and then that's an extra 2450 of damage on board. So I don't typically want to do it too frequently, because naturally there's a lot of cards in your deck that you want to keep. But if you're just in that position, you really just want some damage for game, it's a nice potential option to think about. Okay, so that's it for the monsters and most of the searching spells. Going into the rest of the spells in the deck. Moving next into the fusion spells. Playing 2 copies of Power Bond, since it's now searchable with Chimera, so it's really easy to access. Then I'm also playing one Overload Fusion. This is like mid to late game. Once I've got lots of materials in my grave, I can just summon a really good monster. Also means it's another way that I can go into Cyberdark End Dragon, but I typically like using it for Chimera Tech Overdragon, which is really good. And then one Cyberload Fusion. This works really well after you've done an Overload Fusion, because if you've banished all your materials, you could go Cyberload Fusion, put most of those materials back, and get another monster. And then other cyber-related spells, playing one Cyberdark Inferno and 3 Cyber Eternal. So Infernal gives all your Cyberdark effect monsters targeting and destruction protection if they're equipped with something. And once per turn you can also target a Cyberdark monster in your monster zone, return it to your hand, then you can immediately normal summon a Cyberdark. So basically the original purpose of this was if your Cyberdark's lost its equip, you can return it to your hand, normal summon a new one, equip something, and since it counts as since it's a normal summon by an effect, it doesn't use up your normal summon for the turn. And then Cyberdark Inferno has a secondary effect that if it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you get to add a Polymerization or Fusion spell card from your deck to your hand. So typically you'd want to go for like the Overload Fusion for later in the game. And then Cyber Eternal, this is like one of the new cards from the structure deck. This lets you target a machine fusion monster in your graveyard, and you can either return it to the deck, return it to your extra deck, or you can special summon it ignoring its summoning conditions. And it also has the graveyard effect that if a machine cyber fusion monster would be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can banish it from the graveyard instead once per turn. Now guys, for those wondering, with the effect of Cyber Eternal that lets you special summon someone ignoring its summoning conditions, this doesn't mean you can just activate Cybernetic Horizon, send something from your extra deck, then use Cyber Eternal to bring it back. It doesn't ignore its summoning conditions like that. This is basically like the clause on their effects that state this card must be... So this is like the effects on like Cyberdark End Dragon, which says must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by doing this. It basically just ignores that, but you can't ignore basic game mechanics that a monster from the extra deck has to be summoned properly first to be brought back from the graveyard. And then the last spells I'm playing, which are frankly the only spells not in the structure deck, this is just personal choice. One Foolish Burial, this is just to get additional Cyberdarks in the grave. And one Call by the Grave because this deck has a lot of vulnerability points, so good option. And I am playing traps in this deck, but I'm only playing 2 traps. Playing one Cybernetic Revolution. So even though I typically want to search one of my spell cards off Cyberdragon Core, on the off chance because I play multiples of them, there's a good chance I might open the ones I want. This is just a nice little option of something else I can do. Or if I opened a lot of the spells but I didn't open enough monsters to extend off of it. Or if I'm going first, since I won't be able to deal much damage, Cybernetic Revolution is really good because it just lets you tribute a Cyberdragon, and then you can special summon a fusion monster from your extra deck that lists Cyberdragon as a material, but it gets destroyed at the end of the next turn. Basically, you can just activate it, so you can just normal summon the core. If you don't have any proper follow-up, you could just grab yourself a Revolution, set the Revolution on your opponent's turn, tribute the core, special summon Cyber End Dragon, and then that's a 4k to protect you for 1 turn. It'll get destroyed in the next turn, but then that's a Cyber End Dragon material that you can use. It also means if you have this and core, and you've also got access to the Horizon, you can use Horizon's effect to send Cyberdark Dragon instead, which would set you up for your Power Bond play. And then the last trap card I'm playing, guys, one Cyberdark Invasion. So this card has an effect that you can target a Cyberdark effect monster you control and equip it with one dragon or machine monster. You can equip it with a dragon or machine monster from your graveyard, from either graveyard to it as an equipped spell that gives it an extra 1000 attack. And then its secondary effect is like a scrap dragon, so you can send an equip card to destroy a card your opponent controls, which is kind of pretty useful. Okay, guys, that's it for the main deck. Moving into the extra deck, playing 2 copies of the new boss monster, Cyberdark End Dragon. So, as I explained, it has to be fusion summoned or to be summoned, or it can be summoned off its own effect, which is tributing a level 10 or lower Cyberdark fusion monster that's equipped with Cyber End Dragon. So, if you summon Cyber Darkness Dragon, Darkness has the effect that it can equip a dragon or a machine monster to it when it's summoned. So you can equip it with Cyber End Dragon, and then that meets the requirements to tribute to summon Cyberdark End. And because of the new Cyberdark trap that we've seen of Cyberdark Invasion, you could equip a Cyber End Dragon to a Cyberdark Dragon, which would also meet the requirements of summoning this. And so Cyberdark End Dragon is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Once per turn, it can equip a monster from either graveyard to it, and it can attack monsters multiple times in a turn equal to the number of equipped. It can attack. Is it just monsters or anything? Oh no, it just can attack in general. It has a multi-attack effect equal to the number of cards it's equipped with, which is really good. Then continuing on, playing 2 copies of Cyber End Dragon. Just wanted like a backup option in case one of them gets like hit with a Called by the Grave or something, because it's probably one of the more important ones for setting up Cyberdark End Dragon. 1 Cyberdark Dragon, just as another option of something to send with Horizon. I'm not playing I did want to play my Cyberdark Impact, but frankly, because of doing things like the new Power Bond, if I do Power Bond and I'm banishing my materials, I'm probably not going to have any of my originals left afterwards, and I'm only playing 1 of each. But I still wanted to have him in the deck. And then 1 Cyberdarkness Dragon, so 5 Cyberdark monsters to be summoned, which is really useful, which is pretty easy to do. This is like one of the easier ways of summoning Cyberdark End Dragon. And then he's also got a negating effect by sending an equipped card you control to the grave, which also is not once per turn, which is really useful. Next got 1 Chimera Tech Mega Fleet, just for like board clearance with a Cyber Dragon. 1 Chimera Tech Over Dragon. I find this is a great option mid to late game if your graveyard's really loaded with machines. Just go Overload Fusion, banish everything, drop this, its attack stat is 800 times the number of materials you used. So basically 5 or more materials you're pretty much set, and it can attack multiple monsters in a turn equal to the number of materials that you used to summon it. So pretty good. 1 Rampage. I don't actually make Rampage. I don't normally make Rampage too frequently, but it can come up. It's also probably a reason that I should probably be playing more Cyber Dragon monsters, but I'm not currently. But I haven't really thought too much about it. 1 Cyber Eternity Dragon. I don't typically summon this. Typically I want to send it from my extra deck to the graveyard off the effect of Cyberdark Claw. Yeah, Claw. Then I can use its graveyard effect to banish it to give my fusion monsters protection for 1 turn, which can essentially set me up if I want to just try and smack the game without any interruptions from my opponent. Then 1 of the Link monsters, Cyber Dragon Saiga. So Saiga, pretty easy to summon, just 2 machines including a Cyber Dragon. And then in either player's turn, I can target one monster that hasn't attacked and give it a 2100 buff for the turn, which is pretty useful. And then last cards in my extra deck are essentially Cyberdark Claw targets of stuff I'm going to send from my extra deck to the grave. So playing 1 Chimera Rafflesia, so by just sending this, I can rotor for the Cyberdark. So I can either rotor for a Overload Fusion or a Cyberload Fusion, which is good for a setup. So probably pretty useful if I send it on my own turn, then I can just get a search on my opponent's turn, then I don't have to worry about it. And then other ones, this next one is like one of the obvious choices for something if you've got an effect that sends from extra deck to grave. 2 copies of Elder Entity Natis, so I send it to the graveyard off Claw, then I get to pop an additional card. And for those wondering, I will point out, guys, because Cyberdark Claw's milling effect works in the damage calculation, you don't get a redeclare of your attack. So it would go declare your attack in damage calculation, send Natis to the graveyard, do the damage, monster is destroyed or whatever, if anything, and then after all of that, because Natis is an if effect, so it won't miss the timing, then you have the option to pop a card. Okay. And then last card in my extra deck, 1 Cypher Lord Omega. So not actually using the Gamma package or anything, but Omega just as a claw target means if there's, say, something in my graveyard I want back, I just to be like, cool, declare an attack effect, send Omega to the grave, main phase 2, Omega effect, put itself and another card back into my deck. So it's just free recursion. And guys, just quickly going through the side deck that I used in my tournament. I didn't actually use a lot of this side deck because a lot of it didn't actually come up. But I chose to go with 3 DD Crow. There's very rarely a situation I don't like DD Crow. Personal choice I played, Trap Eater. I knew there was a zombie player, so I was worried about the whole rivalry zombie world problem, so I thought I'll play Trap Eater and then I can get around it with no issues. Went for 3 Night Beam as my back row removal. I kind of wish I'd chosen a quick play spell instead after some of the matchups I had. But it's what I went with. Sorry guys, just let me adjust that. Sorry, it's an ultimate rare, so. And then 3 Imperm. It's a pretty good option going first or second. And I opted for 3 Ice Dragon's Prison. Just because my deck's normally quite good for going second, so I thought I'd have some side options for going first, so I decided to try out my Ice Dragon's Prison. But I didn't really have too many matchups that it worked very well with. Okay, so that was the profile, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below what you thought about it, and any recommendations you have for the build. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll hopefully see you next time.